Hi, my name is Dave. I'm your host. You're listening to The Last Podcast, where the first shall be last and the last shall be first. If this is your first time listening to the channel, welcome. And if you're returning, welcome back. I really appreciate you listening, and I hope you continue to find tips, ideas, and value from listening to this podcast. Today, I want to talk about that inner negative dialogue that we all have at some point in time in our life. You know the one I'm talking about. That voice in your head that spews out self-doubt at will when you're trying to do something new or challenging. It just wants you to remain in the comfort zone, right? Questioning your ambitions. Why do you want to do this now? We've been comfortable all this time. Your voice may be even trying to give you a compelling argument of why you can't achieve whatever it is that you're trying to change in your life. Today, I want to share some tips, ideas, and concepts I believe will help you convert your negative self-talk into a positive, thriving dialogue to help you live a more fulfilling life. To help me illustrate this point, do you mind if I share a quick story with you? Thanks. I appreciate you. In this small town tucked away between rolling hills lived a young woman named Ella. Ella was known for her kind heart, but she often doubted herself, especially in a town where everyone seemed to have a clear path and firm beliefs in their potential. She worked as an assistant at a small bookstore, lost in the shadows of her own self-doubt, watching as people came and went with conviction, living lives that felt purposeful and bright. Ella's life was quiet. Her days were filled with stacking shelves, chatting with a few regulars, and then slipping home to her small apartment where she would lose herself in books that offered lives only she can dream of. But deep down inside, a small voice, almost too faint to hear, whispered that she was meant for something more. She would hear it in the moments of stillness, or when she was lost in a particular inspiring story, yet as quickly as the voice emerged, her doubts would shut it down. One evening, as she was closing the bookstore, an old man named Leo walked in. He was a rare visitor, a traveler who had been coming through the town for years. Leo had noticed her behind the counter before and sensed her quietness, the way she held back like a flower reluctant to bloom. "Why do you keep hiding?" he asked gently after being a brief exchange. Ella looked back and she was taken, caught off guard by his directness. I'm not hiding," she said, but her voice wavered. "I just don't know if I'm really meant to do much more than this." Leo looked at her with warm, knowing eyes. "Let me tell you something, Ella. Self-belief is like a match in the dark. It can light a path that feels invisible. And if you don't light it, you'll always wonder what was there just beyond the darkness." Now, Ella thought about his words long after he left. They stuck with her like an itch she couldn't ignore. For the next few days, she began to see small opportunities in her daily life as potential match strikes. She started engaging with customers, sharing her own book recommendations, which she had been too shy to offer before. She even accepted an invitation to join the locals writers group, despite her fear that her ideas might be unworthy. As she stepped out of her comfort zone, something remarkable began to happen. With each small act of self-belief, her confidence grew. She felt the world shift, and in tiny but significant ways, her perspective began to open. Her voice grew steadier, her vision clearer. She found herself looking forward to the writers group, where her ideas were not only welcome, but encouraged. She even began to write stories of her own. Stories about people finding their strength and purpose. And one day, she was sharing her story she had written. A member of the group, he asked could he share it with a friend of his, a local publisher. Nervous but excited, Ella agreed. Weeks later, her story was accepted for publication in a local magazine, and people began to notice her as not just the quiet assistant from the bookstore, but as Ella, the writer. The shift in her life was so profound, like a ripple expanding outward, touching everything. Leo returned to the bookstore months later, his curiosity drawing him back to the little shop. Where he walked in, he didn't see the quiet, uncertain woman he once knew. Instead, he saw a young woman who was blooming, radiant with newfound self-assurance. She greeted him warmly, no longer afraid to take up space, her eyes bright with purpose. Leo said, "Look at you." A soft smile spreading across his face. "You found the light, didn't you?" Ella nodded, her voice strong. "Thank you, Leo. I didn't know I could change like this. But you were right. The little match of self-belief. It led me to places I never imagined." From that day forward, Ella continued to believe in her dreams, in herself. She learned that self-belief wasn't something she would acquire all at once. It was a practice, a flame she needed to tend to. But each day she fanned it, letting it illuminate the path of her life she always was meant to live. Why am I sharing this story with you? I believe that there are so many people living Ella's story who reside in the shadows of their self-doubt or unbelief in themselves, who are chained by their own inability to set themselves free. Limiting beliefs often develop from a mix of experiences, social influences, and internalized thoughts that over time form mental boundaries on what we believe is possible for our own selves in our own lives. Like Leo told Ella, self-belief is like a match in the dark. It can light a path that often feels invisible and bring to light opportunities to explore beyond your wildest dreams. Only if you dare to look into the horizon of your future and embrace your life filled with new opportunities and new experiences that await you. Only then can you live a full life. I believe there is no secret to what we tell ourselves, and that basically shapes our reality. This self-talk is both internal and external. How we reflect on our past, present, and future can significantly impact our motivation. Our beliefs influence how we perceive our capabilities, what's possible for us, and whether we feel worthy of even achieving what we want. Like Ella in the story, when Leo asked, "Why are you hiding?" And Ella said, "I'm not hiding. I just don't know if I'm really meant to do much more than this. Stack books on a shelf." By monitoring our self-talk and how we speak to others, I believe that we can become aware of our limiting beliefs. The trick is to basically catch ourselves in mid-conversation, whether with ourselves or others, and turn it around. A belief is simply a thought you keep thinking. If we replace it with more empowering and motivating thoughts each time, eventually our beliefs will shift too. Think of it like a game. Spot opportunities to swap out negative beliefs with a positive idea. I believe you have to have a language that will work for you. You have to figure out what language empowers you. Find it, use it, and choose whether it be attitudes, thoughts, belief, assumptions, opinions, judgments, and even feelings that support what you want to create. You know, research shows that viewpoints affect our decisions, our actions, and your attitudes determine the outcome of your life. By consciously choosing your words, both internal and external, and your belief systems, you can become your own powerful motivator. So, the question is, how do we change those negative beliefs and self-talk? Well, it's not going to be easy. I believe that we have to be more intentional with our thinking. You have to be, I think a person would be surprised at how much our thinking is on autopilot. Think about it. You wake up in the morning, you follow your morning routine all the way to work. I'm quite sure you don't even really think about that, right? You wake up in the morning, you brush your teeth, it's all automatic. You get in your car, drive, it's all automatic. You don't even have to figure out where the key to the ignition is, or the push button ignition, you instinctively do it, right? It's the same thing with negative self-talk. It's on autopilot too. Believe it or not, it's been with you for years that it's so normal to you. It's part of you. It's part of your reality. It's part of your own thought process. But you want to know something that's also part of your identity. So think about that. You have a negative self-talk that's part of your identity. It's not going to be easy to get rid of, and it didn't come overnight, so it's not going to go overnight. That's why I believe that we have to be intentional about what we're thinking. We have to take our mind off of autopilot and be more conscious with our thoughts. We must put our mind in manual until we replace those negative thoughts and negative dialogues to a positive dialogue. I'm a big advocate for waking up in the morning saying my prayers and thanking God for another day. And after I say my prayers, I read the scriptures. I even write in my journal how grateful I am. And I set the stage for the day through what I need to do, what I want to do, and what I must accomplish throughout the day. Now, I have to be candid with you. It doesn't always go my way, but it's the framework that matters. I also set the daily stage in my journal about how I feel, who I am, and what I have achieved lately, about my goals and what I want to achieve in the next 30 days or even in the next 6 months. I don't be there all morning. It just takes me about 5 to 10 minutes to do this. But what is also equally important, I practice mindfulness for about 5 minutes every morning because I want to be intentional with what I'm thinking and with how I'm acting. In essence, I want to make my energy and whatever I'm thinking and my body, I want to make sure it's perfectly aligned. And you could do this through meditations for about 5 minutes. So I know you all heard this one powerful saying, as a man thinketh, so is he. You probably even heard, change your thoughts, change your life. Be thou conformed by the renewing of your mind. Right? But you might be asking, how? It's not easy. It'll take conscious effort on your part to make the changes in your self-talk, in your limiting beliefs. Yes, we know in order to grow and evolve, we have to continue to learn. But what happens when you're learning as you're learning these new things and that little self-doubt creeps in? Even with your new skills and with your new way of doing things, you still will have new self-doubt. The thing is to cast it down. The minute it comes in, replace it. Because you're going to be off, you're not going to be on autopilot, you're going to be on manual now. So you'll know when that negative voice comes in. Now you can cast it out and put something like a more affirming statement in its place. You must be willing to work on your self-talk by becoming consciously aware of what you are saying and be able to interject it with empowering statements. Basically, that's pretty much it. But there's a whole lot more work that needs to be done. And I want you to be able to think about one thing. How much work would I have to put in to make all this happen? You're going to have to do as much work as possible. And to help you do this, I have put together a little pamphlet. It's probably about 15 or 16 pages or so that will allow you to answer a ton of questions. And why I believe questions are so important is because questions allow us to think, look into ourselves, and find answers. And that's the only way that we can actually do the work, is by asking ourselves questions. How? What? When? Where? Do you know one of the most powerful questions in the world? What that is? I bet you do know. Why? Yeah. Why is so powerful, and I'm going to tell you why. Because if you think about something, the word why is going to allow you to do far more greater things than you can imagine. Why? Well, for starters, you need to know why you want to make the change. Where did your negative self-talk come from? How did it start? All these questions. Why? Why is it there? When did it begin? Why do you want to change? Why do you like sitting on the couch watching TV? What does it do for you? Why? It's powerful. Self-talk refers to internal dialogue that we have with ourselves. It includes our thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes, both positive and negative. This conscious self-talk directly influences how we believe we can do things. Subconscious mind, which plays a critical role in shaping our behavior, guess what? Our habits and our overall mindset. Now, the conscious versus our subconscious mind, because you have to think about these things when you're taking your mind off of autopilot. Our conscious mind, this is the part where our mind is aware of our thoughts and our surroundings. It's where active thinking, decision making, and problem solving occurs. Our subconscious mind, on the other hand, this is a deeper layer of our mind that operates below the level of conscious awareness. It stores our memories, our beliefs, emotions, habits, and automatic responses. Now, the process. There is a process, yes. When we repeatedly tell ourselves something, whether it's I am capable or I can't do this, these thoughts seep into our subconscious mind. Our subconscious mind doesn't differentiate between reality and imagination. It just simply absorbs, and it acts as the information it receives. So you think about that. If you're constantly telling yourself that you can't, and I'm guilty of this too. My biggest thing was memory. And everybody who knows me, there's a joke that goes around. 6 seconds is all you got with me. 6 seconds is all I'm going to remember. I'm not going to remember everything, but I have to realize, okay, even though there's some issues and there's a reason for those 6 seconds, I'm not going to go into it in this podcast, but one day I will. But there's a reason for that, and there's a medical reason for that. So I am no longer going to say that. I have to realize I got to practice what I preach. So you see what I'm saying here? Over time, repetitive self-talk solidifies into our own beliefs. For example, if you constantly tell yourself, I'm not good at something, your subconscious mind starts to accept this as the truth. So whatever you say to yourself that you're not this, you're not that, and over time, it's going to solidify as a fact. It's going to say this is true. This belief then influences what? Your behaviors, your decisions, often creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. Behavior impact is another thing that you have to think about. Our subconscious mind believes that drive our automatic responses and behaviors. Remember, I just got through saying we get up in the morning, we brush our teeth. It's all on automatic. So are our self-talk, our doubts, our limiting beliefs. It's all automatic too. But if you have a positive self-talk, that can increase confidence, motivation, while negative self-talk, it's going to do what? It's going to have doubt and fear. These behaviors are enforced through our actions and experiences, embedding these beliefs in our subconscious mind. And that's something that we don't want to do. Now we need to spend some time with ourselves and start catching ourselves and replacing those limiting beliefs with positive affirming statements. And I'm telling you right now, self-talk can also affect your emotional state. Positive affirmations can boost our moods and reduce stress, while negative thoughts can increase anxiety and depression. These emotional responses stored in our subconscious mind shape our overall outlook in life. Now, what I've done is I have put together a pamphlet for you, and I believe this pamphlet will provide you with a framework that you can actually use, and you can take home, or you can download it, however you want to do it. This will help you change how you view your self-talk. Right? So it's about 15-page pamphlet. It's packed with practical exercises designed to help you change the narrative and boost your self-esteem. Now you can email me at thelastpodcast443@gmail.com and say, pamphlet or exercise, either one will work, and I will send it over to you at no cost to you. And the good thing about this is you can imagine waking up every morning with a positive, empowering inner dialogue. And that's what I want for you. I want you to be able to figure out how to change this dialogue. But when you work through the exercises, it's going to take you through a framework. And believe me, there are quite a bit of exercises and quite a bit of soul searching and quite a bit of awareness that you would have to put into this so you can make the necessary changes in your own life. You're going to start with awareness, be mindful about your self-talk, and identify negative beliefs. You're going to be able to also create positive affirmations by crafting statements that counter your negative thoughts and ensure that they are present tense, positive, and personal. And then you have to do this daily. You have to set aside time each day to repeat your affirmations, and you could do this in front of a mirror, write it down. And I think if you write it down, it's more powerful than actually saying it in the mirror. So write it down, read it to yourself out loud, and then you can do that. But also, you got to remember there's a senses that go in this. You have to make sure that you're able to visualize what it is that you need to do to change the negative self-doubt or negative thoughts that you're having. And remember, those thoughts are only thoughts. That's right. You can cast those thoughts down. You can replace them with something that is more positive. But what I also want you to do is I want you to get 2 journals. I want you to be able to journal about your progress. I want you to be able to journal about and track all the changes and thoughts and feelings over time. But the second journal is I want you to write down all the things that you believe are empowering for you. And this is a great way for you to start building on a new foundation. And it's just like when Jesus talked about in Matthew, he talked about it was a foolish person who built his house on the sand, but it was a smart person who built his house on a rock. So when the storms of life come at you, you'll know why that house is standing, because your why is predicated on the rock. So I want you to make sure that you do these things and surround yourself with positivity. Engage in positive content, people, and environments that support your new beliefs. And then there are a lot of questions I also have in this thing here where I want you to start asking yourself, where did my negative beliefs come from? I want you to ask yourself these questions. What causes you to worry? What are you afraid of? What positive beliefs would you like to have instead? These are questions that are in the worksheets. And you know, a lot of us had self-doubt and a fixed mindset, and I'm not good enough, just to name one. I would probably fail. I can't do this. But I want you to write down yours. I want you to see what it looks like on paper. This is real powerful. And then, of course, you're going to be going into cognitive reframing. And cognitive reframing involves you identifying the negative thoughts and patterns and replacing them with a more balanced and a positive perspective in your own life. It can especially be helpful in overcoming limiting beliefs and transforming self-criticism into self-compassion. All right. So if you, for example, if you struggle with feelings of inadequacy, reframing might involve changing the thought, I always fail till I'm learning and growing with each challenge. All right. And don't forget, you also have to have self-care. Self-care is that opportunity, essential part of healing emotional wounds. This includes physical activities like exercise, rest, nutrition, emotional self-care practices like mindfulness, setting boundaries, and engaging in hobbies. All right, so I want you to take this sheet and do the work, because it will allow you to understand what's going on internally. So it's a powerful thing to do. I've done it, and I've done a whole lot more than what I'm giving you here. But if you want to take it to the next level, definitely reach out to me and I'll help you take it to the next level and learn a whole lot more. But again, my name is Dave. You're listening to the last podcast. I hope this was helpful. I hope the pamphlet helps you to tackle that self-doubt, that self-negative dialogue that's within your head, and move on and do something more positive with your life. Again, my name is Dave. You're listening to the last podcast, and do me a favor while you're listening right now. I would like you to hit the like button. I would like you to hit that subscribe. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button right now while you're listening. I would like for you to do that right now and tell your family and friends about this podcast. Tell your coworkers, your associates about this podcast. And do me a favor. Can you write in an email and tell me, was this a good podcast for you? Let me know. I would like a little feedback for it. And I appreciate your time. You have a wonderful day. Be blessed. Bye-bye.